Hi, everybody. This is Humaira here, the founder and CEO of HM Accounting. And I wanted to share something that really has changed my life, both as a business owner and in my personal capacity as a wife, as a mommy, um, as a daughter, and as a student. So this is the six-step decision-making process, and I learned it while studying business strategy in my MBA studies. And honestly, it has helped me so much just with to stop overthinking, to stop spiraling, and to really start making decisions that I feel confident about and that I have a lot of clarity on. So, whether you are deciding on pricing, on hiring, on growing your business, this process gives you that structure. It removes a lot of the emotional bias and it helps you move forward with clarity and with confidence. So, why do we struggle with decisions? Let's just get into a quick theory. Before before we dive in, let me actually tell you why this matters. So, in business, especially when you're under pressure, your brain loves to take shortcuts, but often those shortcuts are based on bias. One would be like a confirmation bias. So we look for information that agrees with what we are already thinking. The second one would be anchoring bias. So we give too much weight to the first thing that we hear. And the third thing is loss aversion, where we fear loss more than we actually fear gain. So even with the best intentions, we sometimes choose what feels safe or what has been subconsciously programmed into our minds. And we don't always choose the most strategic or the best decision. So this framework helps us to slow down that bias. And remember, there's a lot of biases and make decisions that are based on logic, that are based on structure, and that are based on proper values. So step one is to define the decision clearly, right? A vague decision creates a vague outcome. So clear framing reduces confusion and it speeds up action. I used to stress over business choices because I hadn't even properly defined what I was deciding. So now I always start with this. I write one single sentence describing that decision. So, for example, it's not going to be, should I grow my business? But rather, should I hire a part time admin assistant by August or keep using freelancers for the next quarter? Now, how you can apply this would be to write your decision as a question, including the timing, the options, and the context. That's how you frame a decision that you can actually work with. Step two would be to set your evaluation criteria upfront. Now, good decisions depend on what matters to you, right? If you don't define success, how are you going to choose? Before you even look at options, decide what success looks like. Now, that could be a return of earnings above 25%. It could be low operational strain or costs. It could be fast time to market, alignment with your personal bandwidth or your team capacity. An example would be when I had to decide whether to take on a big client, I used this criteria. Will this client pay on time? Will the work allow my team to grow? Will I still have time for my studies and for my family? Now, how you can apply this would be to open a page and write 3 to 5 must have outcomes. Use these to judge every option fairly, and this helps keep emotions out of the way. Step three would be to generate all of your viable options. We often limit ourselves to two choices, but decisions are rarely binary. So this was really a huge shift for me. I used to say, do I hire or not? But that's too narrow. I now use something called the vanishing options test, which is to imagine that your top two options could vanish. Now, what else could you do? An example of this would be instead of hiring a staff member or doing it myself, I came up with train an intern, use automation, partner with a virtual assistant agency. When you are applying this, you can write down at least 4 to 5 creative options. You, in fact, do not even need to limit your options. Write down as many as you can and push past the obvious. Ask, what's a completely different way to solve this problem? Step four would be to evaluate each option separately. Now, assessing options individually prevent cognitive bias like anchoring or emotional attachment. This is where I used to go wrong. I'd line all the options up and instantly choose the one that looked the easiest or the most familiar. But now I assess each one on its own merit using the criteria that I wrote earlier. So, for example, if one option scores very well on profitability, but poorly on time demands, I note that without letting the profit blind me to burnout risk. So, how can you apply this? Create a very strong scoring table or a checklist and list each option down on the side. List your criteria across the top. Give each option a score out of 10 on each factor. This gives you a simple but powerful visual. Step 5 is to make your final comparison. Now that you have evaluated each option fairly, compare them holistically to choose the best fit. This is the moment of truth. Once all your evaluations are complete, you'll start to see the top options emerge very clearly, and it might not be the one that you had initially expected. For example, I thought I would go with a course launch, but once I looked at the team capacity and the timing investment, I realized that a smaller group program was more doable for me. You can apply this by looking at your scores and asking which option consistently meets my top criteria and also which one feels sustainable. Logic and intuition makes very smart decisions. Step 6 is to stress test the decision before acting. So, a post-mortem is a proactive planning tool where you visualize failure before it happens and then you plan your safeguards. So, I used to skip this and then panic when things didn't go according to plan. Now, before I act, I ask, let's say this fails. Why did it fail? What broke it? For example, before launching a service, I ask, what if no one signs up? What if the technology fails? What if I burn out? And then I plan around those risks. It is not being negative or thinking negative, but it is very, very smart strategy for things that may come up. So, how can you apply this? Grab a notebook and write, if this decision fails, it will be because, and then write 3 reasons. Now list what you can do today to prevent those things. Confidence comes from clarity. Business is not about avoiding tough choices. There are many, many tough decisions to make, but it's about making these decisions very wisely. And this process doesn't just help with big decisions, it helps you to build a mindset of calm, of clarity, and of confidence. Whether you are choosing a new hire, a service, or a pricing strategy, the 6 steps process gives you the framework that removes doubt and helps you to move forward with clarity. If this video gave you confidence and it gave you clarity and it helped you to start making better decisions, then please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and share it with someone else who is stuck in decision overload. And if you are facing tough decisions right now, drop it in the comments. I would love to help you think it through. Until next time, bye.